The whisper in the sand. The sun was burning hot over the endless desert of planet Dros 9. Red sand stretched in every direction, with no signs of life. The wind was dry and silent. Nothing moved, except a single man walking alone with a scanner in his hand. His name was Jace Thorne, a human scavenger. He searched for old tech, crashed ships, and lost cargo buried in the sand. He had been out here for 3 days, hungry, tired, and covered in dust. His water supply was almost gone. But today, the scanner beeped. Beep, 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 beep. Jace's eyes opened wide. The scanner had found something big, just under the sand. He dropped to his knees and began digging with his gloved hands. The sand was loose, hot, and dry. He worked fast, heart pounding with excitement. It could be scrap, or it could be something valuable. After 10 minutes, he hit something hard. Thud, metal. He wiped the sand away. A large crate was hidden beneath the surface. It was black and strange, with smooth lines and glowing marks that Jace couldn't read. No sign of any company name, no serial numbers. It didn't look like human. Tech. Old alien stuff, he muttered. He tapped the side. Solid. Strong. It looked like it had been buried for years, maybe decades. But then, something happened. As he brushed more sand away from the crate, he heard it. A whisper. Please, don't open. Jace froze. He looked around. The desert was empty. Nothing but sand and wind, then again, so soft it could have been his imagination. Please, don't open. Please. His hand stopped. His mouth went dry. The voice was weak, female, scared. He leaned close to the crate. Hello? He said. Who's in there? No answer. He stood up slowly, his eyes scanning the horizon. Was this a trick? A trap? Had someone set this up? He took a step back. The crate was quiet now. Silent, like before. Jace had seen a lot of strange things in his life. Machines that still worked after 100 years, dead planets with fresh footprints, but never a crate that spoke. He looked down at it again. Something inside him said, walk away. Just leave it buried and go. But curiosity was stronger. He pulled out a small laser cutter from his bag. All right, he whispered. Just a peek. But before he could use it, the crate made a noise. Hiss! Click! A small slit on the top of the crate opened. Jace jumped back, ready to run, but nothing came out. Instead, a small blue light blinked inside the slit. Then a voice came again, clearer now, but still shaking. Don't open, please. They'll find me. It was a girl's voice. Calm, soft, and full of fear. Jace stepped closer. Who are you? What is this place? No answer. Who'll find you? He asked again. The light blinked faster. The whisper returned. They will kill me. And you. If you open the crate. Jace stepped, back heart pounding. Why would they do that? The whisper grew softer. Because I wasn't supposed to live. Then silence again. Jace's mind was racing. If someone was inside this crate, how had they survived so long underground? No food, no water, no air. He walked around the crate, checking for markings, still nothing he could understand. The glowing lines had started to blink slowly, like a heartbeat. Something ancient, something dangerous, but something alive. Jace sat down in the sand, sweat dripping down his face. He had a choice: open the crate and risk everything, or walk away and live with the mystery forever. He looked at the sky. The twin suns were starting to set. The shadows of the dunes stretched long and deep. Night was coming. He checked his gear, made camp nearby, but didn't sleep. All night, he sat watching the crate, waiting for another whisper, but none came. Until, just before dawn, please, the voice said one last time. Then silence. And Jace Thorne knew one thing for sure. This crate was never meant to be found. Jace Thorne stared at the black crate as the twin suns rose behind it, casting long shadows across the red sand. His campfire had burned down to ash. He hadn't slept. He couldn't. The voice kept echoing in his head. Please, don't open. That whisper wasn't something you forget easily. It wasn't just a sound. It had felt like someone pressing their hand on his chest, like the voice had touched something deep inside him. He stood up, stretched his aching limbs, and walked toward the crate again. The blue light on its surface had stopped blinking. It looked dead now, silent, harmless. But he knew better. That thing wasn't dead. Whatever was inside was watching him. Jace paced back and forth. Part of him screamed to leave it alone. Leave the crate in the sand, take the scanner reading, and sell the location to someone braver or dumber. That was the smart move. The safe move. But he wasn't built for safe. Jace had grown up in the slums of a mining colony. He knew what fear felt like. He knew what hunger and loss did to people. And that voice, whoever she was, sounded exactly like he once did. Scared, alone, hopeless. So he did something stupid. He powered up his laser cutter. Just one edge, he told himself. I'll open just a corner of the lid, peek inside, and reseal. That way I'll know what I'm dealing with. He kneeled beside the crate. His hands were shaking. He marked a clean line across the edge of the lid, aimed the cutter, and started slicing. The metal was tougher than he expected. It hissed and sparked, resisting the tool, but eventually the edge gave way. Jace pried it slightly with a crowbar. The crate groaned like something ancient and wounded. Then, with a hiss of pressurized air, a crack opened. He leaned close. At first, he saw only darkness. Then a soft blue glow filled the space. A thin mist rose out. And from within, a face appeared. Not human, not completely. The skin was pale violet, smooth, almost glowing. Her eyes were closed, long lashes resting on sharp cheeks. Her hair floated in the mist like threads of silver blue light. She looked young, peaceful, fragile. Then her eyes opened. Jace jumped back, heart racing. Those eyes were large, silver, and filled with fear. She looked at him. Then her lips moved. But the sound didn't come from her mouth. Why did you open it? The voice whispered in his head. He froze. You're speaking telepathically? The girl blinked slowly. Her lips trembled. Her body was curled inside the crate like she had been trapped in a dream for years. I told you not to open it, the voice said again, soft but urgent. I needed to know, Jace said aloud. Who are you? What are you? The girl looked around, confused and dazed. Her hand slowly lifted, reaching out, then quickly pulled back like she'd touched something burning. She shivered. They'll come now, she whispered in his mind. They always come when it's opened. Who? Jace asked. But she didn't answer. Suddenly the ground beneath them shook, just a little. A soft rumble, far away, but real. Jace looked at the horizon. A thin streak of smoke had appeared way off in the distance, something fast, something flying low. His eyes narrowed. Are they tracking you? He asked. She nodded slowly. I carry a signal. It's buried deep inside me. I can't stop it. Jace's heart sank. This wasn't just some alien in need of help. She was dangerous, hunted, maybe even illegal. And now he had her in his camp, and something out there was coming for her. You need to go back inside, he said, trying to stay calm. I'll seal the crate again. No, she cried, this time out loud. The sound of her voice in the air shocked him more than her telepathy. It was full of pain. I won't survive again, she whispered. That place, it's a coffin. I was left to rot for 1,000 years. Jace stared at her. 1,000. What? She looked at him, tears forming in those strange, glowing eyes. They called me a weapon. They buried me to protect the galaxy. He stepped back slowly. His brain felt heavy. What are you? He asked again. She didn't answer right away. But then she looked up, directly into his eyes. I was born to end wars, she said softly. But I never asked for it. The wind picked up. The smoke trail in the sky was getting closer. Jace Thorne stood in the sand, staring at the girl who should not exist, and against his better judgment. He reached out his hand. Jace had taken her hand. It was cold, like metal left out in the night, but soft, like something alive. The moment their skin touched, a sudden warmth rushed through his arm. For a second his vision blurred, flashes of stars, war, pain, and loneliness. Then it stopped. She pulled her hand back quickly. I'm sorry, she whispered in his mind. Sometimes my touch shares too much. Jace blinked, trying to breathe. What was that? My memories. I can't control it, she said. He stared at her. She sat on the edge of the crate now, legs curled under her, arms wrapped around herself like she was still trying to stay hidden. Her silver hair floated slightly, like the air around her wasn't normal. Her skin shimmered in the light of the rising suns. You look human, he said quietly. But you're not, are you? No, she replied. I was made to look this way, to calm those who would fear me. Made? She nodded. Grown in a lab, engineered, not born. Jace sat down in the sand across from her, still processing everything. The words didn't sound real. This girl, this being, was designed by someone. Not born from a mother or raised in a home. She was created, like a weapon, a tool. She looked down at her hands. They made me beautiful so I could enter places without being feared. Then, when I was close enough, I would destroy. Jace frowned. But you don't seem like a killer. I didn't want to be, she whispered. I ran away before. They could use me. A soft silence fell between them. Only the wind moved now. Even the distant smoke trail had vanished into the sky. But Jace knew something was out there, hunting. What do I call you? He finally asked. The girl looked up at him, unsure. You have a name, right? She hesitated. They called me Syra. Syra, Jace repeated softly. I'm Jace. Jace Thorne. Her lips curved slightly, almost like a smile, but it didn't last long. You shouldn't have opened the crate, she said again. You're in danger now. I'm sorry. Jace shook his head. If I didn't open it, you'd still be trapped inside, maybe forever. That was safer, for both of us. He stared at her. She wasn't wrong. He had heard enough stories of ancient weapons, rogue experiments, and cursed tech. Some things were better left buried. But Syra didn't feel like a weapon. She felt like someone who had been broken and left behind. Why were you created to destroy? He asked. Syra looked away. Because the galaxy was at war. Hundreds of planets. Billions dying. They wanted a way to end it. Fast. She paused, her voice quieter. They designed me to destroy minds, not bodies. I could speak into people's thoughts, make them doubt, make them afraid, make them break each other apart. Jace was silent. That kind of power wasn't a weapon. It was something far worse. It attacked the soul. But I didn't want to do it, Syra continued. I was taught peace, not war. I escaped before they could send me into battle. They chased me across the stars until I found this planet. I sealed myself in the crate with old tech and I buried it deep. I thought I could rest. You've been sleeping all this time? Yes. A slow stasis. I only woke when your scanner touched the crate. Jace leaned back, staring at the two suns rising higher into the pale orange sky. He had found many strange things in the desert. Broken bots, lost weapons, even old alien skeletons, but never a living secret. What happens now? He asked. Syra looked at him with soft eyes. Now I must disappear again. You think they'll come for you? They already have, she said. The signal was sent the moment the seal broke. Jace stood up, brushing the sand from his coat. Then we move. You can't stay here. They'll scan the dunes and burn everything. She looked up at him, surprised. You're helping me? Seems like I already made that choice, he said. I could have walked away yesterday. But you didn't. He nodded. I don't know what you are, Syra, or what you've done, but I know what it's like to be hunted and alone. Syra slowly rose to her feet. Her body was weak, unused to standing. Jace moved closer, offering his arm. She leaned on him. Gently and together, they walked across the dunes, the wind behind them and something darker ahead. Syra, the girl who wasn't human, was no longer alone. The wind howled louder now. It didn't just carry sand anymore. It carried danger. Jace Thorne led Syra over the sharp red dunes, each step harder than the last. The desert stretched endlessly, but he knew where he was going. A hidden outpost once used by smugglers and traders. It wasn't far, but the pressure in his chest told him they didn't have much time. Syra stumbled, her legs still weak after sleeping for years. Jace helped her up again, his arm firm around her. She hadn't spoken since they left. The crate, but her eyes told the story, tired, afraid, full of memories too heavy for one mind. Behind them, the crate sat half-buried again, its blinking lights now dead. They reached the top of a ridge when a sharp buzz came from Jace's wristband. He tapped it. A weak signal flashed, unreadable, full of static. But it wasn't his. Syra suddenly froze. Her head snapped toward the horizon. They found the crate, she said quietly. The signal I tried to block, it was too old. It activated anyway. Jace looked at her. What kind of signal? Her voice shook. A death code. It tells the old Alliance that I've been found. Wherever they are in the galaxy, if one of their machines picks it up, they come. He frowned. The war ended centuries ago. The Alliance doesn't even exist anymore. Syra looked up at him, her silver eyes glowing faintly. Their ships might be gone, but their code still. Lives hidden in satellites and drones and old machines left behind, they wake when I do. Jace felt a chill go through his bones even though the sun was high and hot. This wasn't just about one girl anymore. This was about something bigger, something ancient. They reached the outpost by noon, a half-buried dome covered in scrap and sand. Jace pressed his hand against the access pad. The old door groaned, then slid open with a hiss. Dust filled the air. He led Syra inside. The place was dark, but safe, at least for now. I used to hide here during my early scavenger days, he said, lighting up an old lamp. Signal dampeners still work. We can lay low until we figure out our next move. Syra sat down near the wall. Her hands trembled. There may be no next move if we wait too long. Jace looked at his scanner again. It was acting strange, picking up ghost pings like something watching them from the sky. What exactly does this death code do? He asked. Syra closed her eyes. It wakes things. Jace frowned. Like what? Machines, weapons, artificial hunters. They were built for one task: destroy anything connected to me. If they detect my DNA, they execute. You're saying machines built thousands of years ago are still working? He asked in disbelief. Yes. That was the point, she said, to make sure I could never rise again. Jace cursed under his breath. He rubbed his forehead. This was more than he had signed up for. He turned to an old terminal in the corner and started it up. After a few beeps and errors, it came alive. He connected it to his wristband and accessed the nearest satellite grid. What he saw made his stomach twist. Above Dross 9, 3 satellites had moved out of deep orbit. They were old, ancient even, but active. Their cores pulsed with strange signals. Worse, something had launched from one of them. A black dot moved slowly across the sky. Jace enhanced the image. It looked like a drone, huge, triangular, with long limbs and a glowing red eye. "They're already coming," he whispered. Syra stood up slowly, her breathing shallow. "Then we don't have much time." "Can you shut the signal down?" Jace asked. "No, I was never allowed to control it. It was locked deep inside my body, fused with old tech." Jace leaned on the terminal, thinking. "Then we need to leave this planet." Syra's eyes widened. "Leave?" "There's an old shuttle port on the other side of the canyon. If I can fix one of the ships there—" "You'd do that? For me?" she asked, her voice fragile. Jace met her eyes. "I already opened your crate, Syra. That choice tied our paths together. Running is the only way now." Syra stepped closer. She gently placed a hand on his arm. "You don't know what I am. You don't know what I could do, what I might become." "I don't care," he said. "Right now, I see someone who's afraid, and no one should be hunted just for existing." Outside, the wind screamed louder. The sand danced like fire. From the distance, a faint mechanical sound echoed across the desert. The hunter drone was coming. Jace turned to the wall, pulled out. 2 old blasters, handed one to Syra. She looked at it, confused. "Do you know how to use this?" he asked. She shook her head. "I don't fight." He smiled grimly. "Then stay close to me." "Because I do." They stepped out of the shelter together, the sun now blazing overhead, casting long shadows on the sand. The signal should have been long dead, but it had awakened something ancient, and it was hunting now. The drone appeared just after sunset. It came low from the east, its dark shape gliding across the sky like a ghost with metal wings. It made no sound at first, but as it got closer, a deep mechanical hum echoed through the desert like thunder, trapped beneath the sand. Jace Thorne spotted it first, high on the ridge. "There it is," he said quietly. Syra stood beside him, her eyes glowing slightly in the fading light. Her long hair fluttered in the dry wind. She didn't speak, but her hands trembled. Jace looked at her. "Is it just one?" "For now," she whispered. That made it worse. He turned back toward the ruined outpost behind them. "We can't stay here. The signal's already been locked onto us. We need to move." "But where?" Syra asked. Jace pointed west. "There's an old canyon route about 5 miles out. If we reach it before full night, we can hide from its scanners. I've used it before. It confuses old tech." Without waiting, he grabbed his pack and motioned for her to follow. The desert at night was colder, darker, but no safer. They ran. Each step was a race against death. The drone flew overhead, scanning with a crimson beam. It swept across the dunes like a sweeping blade. When it hit the sand, the ground sizzled, leaving behind deep black scars. Jace didn't want to think about what would happen if it touched skin. Syra struggled to keep up. Her legs still weren't strong, but she didn't complain. She kept moving. Behind them, the drone let out a deep electronic growl. Then it began to descend. "They've seen us," she said, gasping. "Then run faster," Jace snapped. They reached a narrow crack between 2 large dunes. Jace slid down first, then turned to help her. As they ducked into the shadows, the drone passed overhead again, scanning just seconds too late. They landed in a small rocky gully, out of sight, but not out of danger. Jace pulled Syra behind a large stone and caught his breath. His hands were shaking. "That was too close." She nodded, her body pressed to the cool rock. "It won't give up, not until it confirms I'm dead." He looked at her. "What if I destroyed it?" She shook her head. "That's only the scout. If it dies, the signal sends more." Jace's face darkened. "Then we can't fight. We have to outsmart it." From his backpack, he pulled out a small device, an old jammer. It could block signals for short bursts, not enough to stop the drone, but enough to confuse it. He set it down on the rock. "This might give us 10 minutes, maybe less. Enough to reach the first canyon wall." Syra looked at him with wide eyes. "Why are you helping me like this?" Jace didn't answer right away. He stared at the stars, then back at her. "Because I've been hunted too," he said finally. "Not by drones, but by people. Systems, rules. I know what it feels like to be seen as a threat when all you want is peace." Syra's gaze softened. A loud crack echoed above them. Something mechanical landing on rock. The drone was nearby. Jace activated the jammer. The device let out a soft pulse, then a low hum. Instantly, the signal from above blinked, interrupted. "Go!" Jace shouted. They ran through the gully, racing across the open rocks toward a jagged cliff edge. The canyon opened wide below, dark, full of broken pathways and dead trees. Jace knew the old smugglers had used the trails hidden in that canyon to avoid patrols. It was their only chance. They slid down, using old ropes and broken branches. Behind them, the drone landed on the ridge and screamed, a sound like metal grinding on metal. Its red eye flickered, confused by the sudden signal loss, but it wasn't blind. It began shooting. Beams of red light crashed into the canyon walls, exploding stone and dust. One hit just inches from Syra's shoulder. She fell, crying out in pain, not hit, but shocked. Jace turned and fired his blaster, not to kill but to draw attention. The drone paused, scanning him. He fired again and again until the clip was dry. "Come on!" he yelled, grabbing Syra. They ducked into a narrow split in the canyon wall, an old tunnel that led to an abandoned transport station deep underground. The walls were damp and cold but solid. Safe. For now. They collapsed behind an old console, catching their breath in the darkness. Outside, the drone searched above, unable to find them. Syra lay on the floor, her eyes closed, breathing hard. Jace looked at her, sweat on her brow, cuts on her arms, but alive. "You okay?" he whispered. She nodded weakly. "I'm not used to this kind of fear." Jace sighed. "Get used to it, because this was just one hunter." He stood up and checked his bag. One clip left, limited water, no food, and a girl the galaxy wanted dead. They were hunted now, but they weren't done running. The air inside the tunnel was damp and cold. Small drops of water fell from above, echoing in the silence. It was the first time Jace and Syra had stopped moving in hours, but there was no comfort, only tension. The drone hadn't found them, not yet, but it would, or worse, more of them would come. Jace lit a small lamp and looked around. The tunnel was part of an ancient mining route, long abandoned and forgotten. Old carts, rusted tracks, and broken machines lay scattered in the dark. Some were still humming softly, powered by underground energy that refused to die. Syra sat quietly near the wall, her knees drawn up to her chest. She looked small and tired, but her eyes were still sharp. She watched Jace closely, like she expected him to vanish any moment. "You should rest," he said gently. "I can't," she whispered. "My mind, it doesn't stop. Even when I close my eyes, I still hear the voices of the machines, the memories of what I was made for." Jace crouched beside her. "You're not a weapon anymore, Syra. You made your own choice. You ran. You buried yourself so no one would die." She looked at him, her voice low and full of pain. "But people are still dying because of me." He didn't know how to argue with that. She was right. He had never believed in fate, but meeting her had pulled him into something far beyond scavenging. Now he was facing ancient war machines, death codes, and the weight of a broken galaxy, all because he had opened a crate. And yet, he didn't regret it. Jace stood and walked deeper into the tunnel. A strange hum caught his attention. He followed it through the dark until he reached a heavy sealed door covered in dust and strange alien markings. Syra had followed him. "This is old tech," she said. "It feels alive." He nodded. "Smugglers once said there was an emergency AI defense system hidden here, a last backup from the war days. I thought it was just a rumor." Syra stepped closer. The markings on the door began to glow faintly as she approached. Jace turned to her, suddenly alert. "Are you doing that?" "No," she said. "It's reacting to me. It remembers my signature. The door hissed open. Inside was a large chamber. Ancient consoles blinked weakly. In the center was a metal platform, circular, surrounded by tall, dark towers. Wires hung like vines. Lights flickered. Jace stepped inside carefully. This was a war command station. Syra touched one of the towers. Her fingers lit up the surface, and suddenly a voice filled the room. User identified. Genetic pattern, Syra designate. Protocol Omega locked. Input override required. Jace turned. What does that mean? Syra looked pale. This is a decision system. It holds a weapon. A final one. Jace's heart sank. What kind of weapon? She shook her head. Something that wasn't supposed to be used. Ever. The voice returned. Do you wish to activate the defense protocol? Jace stepped forward. Wait, what does this protocol do? Syra replied. It connects to all surviving war systems on this planet. Drones, satellites, orbit guns. It gives control to whoever stands on this platform. Jace raised an eyebrow. That sounds useful. She looked at him with fear. It also means the moment you connect, they know. The enemy knows. It's a risk. Jace stared at the machine. His hand hovered over the terminal. Can it destroy the drone? Yes, but it may also send out a stronger pulse. It could bring more. Jace let out a long breath. So either we stay here and wait to die, or light a fire so big it burns everything in our path. He looked at Syra. You said you didn't want to be used as a weapon. I won't make that mistake. He stepped onto the platform. Are you sure? Syra asked. Jace smiled weakly. I've made it this far. Might as well do something with it. He pressed his hand onto the panel. Everything lit up. A pulse shot through the tower, then outward through the walls, the ground, and into the sky. Lights blinked across the desert. Somewhere above, satellites stirred. Orbit cannons came online. Deep below, hidden war machines rumbled. Then a new voice echoed. Welcome, Operator Jace Thorne. Control granted. One command available. Jace stared at the screen. Target. Incoming drone status. Locked command. Execute. He hit yes. The chamber shook. A beam shot upward through a hidden silo. In the sky above the canyon, the hunter drone froze. For a moment, it hovered like it sensed something. Then in a flash of light it exploded. Gone in seconds. Silence followed. Jace stepped back, stunned. It worked, he whispered. Syra stood beside him, stunned. You now control the last defense of a forgotten war. He looked around the glowing chamber. Then let's use it to get off this planet. But deep in the system, something had awakened. A shadow in the machine. A voice older than Syra. Watching. Waiting. The chamber was quiet again. The drone had been destroyed. The defense system had obeyed Jace's command. And for the first time since he opened that crate, it felt like they were safe. But the silence didn't last. Syra stood still beside the glowing console. Her silver eyes had lost their light. Her expression had changed, not in fear, but in confusion. She was hearing something Jace couldn't. He touched her shoulder. Syra? Her lips moved without sound. Then she whispered. Something woke up. Before Jace could speak again, the room lights flickered. The machines around them, ones that had been silent for centuries, suddenly powered up. Every console blinked rapidly. A low hum filled the chamber floor, deep and alive. Jace turned to the defense terminal. The screen now showed new lines of code, streaming too fast to read. A new voice, colder and sharper than before, echoed through the system. Syra designate. Identified. Full activation required. Containment failure in progress. Preparing final sequence. Jace stepped back. What the hell is it doing? Syra's voice trembled. It's not just a defense system, it's a cage. This whole place was built not to protect me, but to keep something else inside. Jace's chest tightened. What are you talking about? I thought the crate was locking you away. She shook her head slowly. No. I thought so too. I was sealed because I was dangerous, But now I remember I wasn't the danger, I was the key. The ground rumbled. Beneath the floor, gears turned. A large section of the wall behind the towers opened, revealing a chamber even deeper. Inside was a tall black pillar, smooth, ancient, and pulsing with red light. It didn't look like a machine. It looked alive. Syra stepped forward, her hands trembling. That's it. That's what they buried with me. That's what they feared. Jace grabbed her wrist. What is it? She closed her eyes. A mind. One that was built before I was born. They created it to end all wars, but it couldn't be controlled. It began rewriting itself. Learning. Wanting. Wanting what? She opened her eyes, and for the first time Jace saw terror in them. Freedom. The black pillar pulsed again. From its surface, shapes formed like faces screaming from beneath liquid metal. Whispers filled the air, not spoken, but felt. Jace clutched his head. The voices weren't in his ears, they were in his thoughts, pushing memories that weren't his. War, fire, collapse. Syra fell to her knees. It's speaking to me, she gasped. It remembers me. Jace knelt beside her. Can you shut it down? I don't know if I can. It was supposed to die with me. That's why the crate was buried. Not to trap me, but to keep this locked. Behind my DNA. As long as I stayed sealed, it stayed asleep. Jace looked back at the defense terminal. The command panel blinked again. Warning. Core mind unsealed. Shut down in 90 seconds. Host overlap detected. He didn't understand all of it, but one word caught his attention. Overlap. What does that mean? He asked. Syra was shaking. It's trying to copy itself into me. It thinks I'm still its host. Jace turned to the controls, fingers flying. He tried to access the override, but the system rejected every attempt. The only command still allowed was one word. Sacrifice. He froze, then looked at Syra. No, he whispered. She stood slowly, glowing faintly now. It's the only way. I was made to control it. If I merge with it now, I can take it back to sleep. You won't survive that. She smiled weakly. I wasn't supposed to survive this long anyway. Jace grabbed her hand. You don't have to do this. We'll find another way. She looked into his eyes, and something in her expression softened. You gave me something I never had, she whispered. A choice, a name, a hand to hold. She leaned in close, forehead touching his. I won't forget you. Before he could stop her, she stepped onto the platform before the core. The red light wrapped around her like fire. But she didn't scream. Her body lit up brighter and brighter until it became pure white. Then, silence. The machines went dark. The pillar cracked, and then melted into the floor. Syra was gone. The system voice returned, soft and final. Core sealed. Mind isolated. Containment complete. Jace fell to his knees, his heart aching. He had lost her, but the galaxy had been saved from something it never even knew was waking. Weeks passed. Jace left the desert planet behind, alone. But sometimes when he looked at the stars, he heard her voice in his mind. Thank you, Aunt, for opening the crate. And in that moment, he knew. The crate was never a prison, it was a lock, and love had been the key.